Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And I tell you, the mainstream media just won't let it go. They just love the Fuentes topic, this opera. It's now turning into an opera about what's going on here with Nick Fuentes, and he's loving it because the more they talk about him, the more powerful and the more relevant he becomes. If you there's that old saying, the lion doesn't concern himself with the barking of a dog or something like that. This guy scares these people. He really scares them. And we're going to get into a man memo, which we haven't done in a minute, about why. But here is Jason Whitlock. He got into the fold over here he's been on Fuentes for a couple of days, but he went in a little bit on the hyping of Nick Fuentes and why people are all over him. Whitlock doesn't agree with Fuentes a lot about a lot of things. He's more of a Tucker guy. A little background on Whitlock: he works for the Blaze, which means he works for Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck, you guessed it, Israel supporter, unabashed Israel supporter, one of those America people, doesn't believe that the United States, Israel, or England have ever done anything wrong. And Jason Whitlock works for him on a show called Fearless. This is a little clip here that I found about Whitlock talking about Fuentes, where he does something very interesting. If you can look at the graphic he has up there, he uses a term, Groyper or die. Now, the Groyper movement, I still don't know what that Groyper thing means. If anybody knows, can please put it in the comment section. I'd appreciate it. Or I'll just look it up. But he makes the claim that Nick Fuentes' motto is Groyper or die. I've looked at a lot of Fuentes' podcasts and clips. Now, his podcasts are on late at night. I mean, sometimes I go on Rumble and it's like 2-3 hours where it's just, videos leading up to the show. And he doesn't come on until like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So I watch maybe 45 minutes, maybe. I have never heard him say Groyper or die. I don't think he's ever used that term. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But the whole Mr. President thing, and let me tell you, they got a good shot of Nick. He looks very stoic over there, leading up to the man memo, of course. But they're warning. Whitlock is making the warning that maybe Fuentes has an ulterior motive here. Maybe he doesn't give a shit about America or about the American people. Maybe he just cares about himself. Maybe his agenda is power. The real mistress of the white man, of the white Christian man. Power, greed. That's what is our downfall always, isn't it? That's why we have all these brother wars for the last 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. But Whitlock brings this up in that graphic, and he talks about a little bit in this clip here. I don't agree with it. Now, I don't think Fuentes will ever really have the momentum to be a president. I don't think he fits the agenda of American politics. See, Trump does, even though he's very brash, very loud. He fits American politics because he likes to make deals, especially with foreigners. So he'll make deals and he'll talk and he'll do all this shit. And it works. Fuentes here doesn't seem like he wants to work with anyone outside of the American borders. He is America first. He is America only. He's America forever, which might be something we need. We need somebody who's going to look out for us. Instead of sending $18 billion to Israel all the time, start looking at people who can't pay their light bills. start looking at people who 27-year-old people are living 5 in an apartment, spending $4,000 a month on rent. Let's figure out how to fix that. But we're getting off topic here, as I always do. Let's listen to a little bit of Jason Whitlock, what he has to say. This is a 57-second clip, and then we'll get back to the program.
He's just 26. I think you got to be 35 to be president.
Sorry about that.
Let's delve into Nick Fuentes and why, and we'll start here with me calling Nick Fuentes Mr. President. Grape or die, I think, is his slogan. I think that Nick Fuentes is eligible to be the president in 2036. He's just 26. I think you got to be 35 to be president. So in 2036, he's going to be a serious candidate for president. In 2028, he's going to have incredible influence over who the Republican nominee and who the president is. I think his influence with young men is growing so rapidly, so swiftly. He's going to be a major playmaker in presidential politics starting in 2028. Let's delve into Nick Fuentes.
Well, there you heard it. Again, I never heard Fuentes use that term or ever post that term, grape or die. I think this is something Whitlock may have made up or something he believes Fuentes is into. But he's already planting the seeds for Fuentes's ambitions taking over. The election of 2028 that will be coming up will be very, very telling, because it will either show that there is Trump fatigue, which there might be already, or we might get a civil war in the Republican Party. And I hate to use that term, but it's just, I can't think of anything else within that party. Because I'll tell you this, if the nominee, and you know he's going to try to run, if the nominee or the front runner is J.D. Vance, we're finished. Forget about anybody in the Democrat Party. That party is lost. That party is finished. They are going to look for somebody. I don't know if it can happen in the next 2.5-3 years, but they're going to have to do a complete restructuring of that party. But the Republicans could kill themselves in 2028 with infighting. Now, I've said this a few times, and I don't know if you'd agree. I think the best choice that we have, I think he should be president now, would be DeSantis from Florida. He's running that state like it's Shangri-La. People are flocking to that fucking state. They are crawling on their hands and knees there. They're not doing that in Texas. They're not doing that in Oklahoma. They're not doing that in Nevada or Colorado. They're doing that in one place. And why? Because the leadership is top-notch. That dude is top-notch governor. Best governor in the country. Probably one of the best governors this country's ever had. So we know if he can transfer his executive experience of running Florida, which is like the 4th largest state in the country, or 3rd largest state in the country, he can do that for the United States and at the federal level. And if we can get past the bullshit of him not being tall enough, or him being, Italian American, or him being Catholic, if we can get past all that bullshit and finally get somebody of merit, a strong candidate, a strong leader like DeSantis, I think we'll be fine for the next 8 years. I don't think Nick Fuentes or Ron DeSantis is Nick Fuentes' cup of tea. I don't know. I've never heard him talk about him. But we're already laying down the seeds. The bricks are being laid as the Republican Party turning into the Groyper Party, as suggested by Jason Whitlock, that he will have a major influence on the candidate in 2028. 2028. Is it true? Maybe. We might forget who Nick Fuentes is 6 months from now. we might his might be a flash in the pan. I don't know. But right now, the way these people are just gravitating towards him and covering his every move is beyond me. And the banner up, as you see, you do black tokens like Whitlock and Owens have black privilege. That came by on watching Whitlock's show today, because Jason Whitlock and Candace Owens are tokens for the conservative movement and the Republican Party. This is just like Marco Rubio, who was a Hispanic token for the Republicans. That guy Vivek, or whatever his name is, again, he's a non-white token for the Republican Party to show that the Republicans are open to bringing anybody in. But the problem is that the people that they're bringing in are mental midgets. Rubio is bought and paid for by Israel. Vivek is probably bought and paid for by Israel. We know that Glenn Beck is being paid by a Mormon junkie. And supposedly, Candace Owens is knee-deep in all sorts of weird stuff. She's married into an aristocratic family. She takes money from the Russians. She takes money from this one. She takes money from that one. I mean, forget about her. But what do you think? Is there such thing as black privilege? Because I think that there is. I think if you're a black person, Jason Whitlock, Thomas Sowell, Jesse Lee Peterson, Candace Owens, whoever, that guy Clark, Sheriff Clark with the funny hat, and you're black and you preach conservative values, or what you deem conservative values, and you speak up against black people, you point out all the things that black people do wrong, you're going to get love from the conservative movement or from conservative people. In hindsight, if these people were white and they were saying the same things about blacks, murder, abortion rate, single mothers rate, all this other stuff that plagues the black community, you'd be deemed a white supremacist, a racist, and they would do the same thing to you that they did to Nick Fuentes. They would deplatform you. They would take over your bank. You would shut down your banking abilities, get you fired, cut off all source of income for you. See, Jason Whitlock works for the Blaze because he has the ability to point these things out. Now he does mostly sports, but he does do some culture stuff too, and he talks about the black community, and because he knows about it better than anybody, he's black. But what he also does is he brings his faith into a lot of his critiquing. And he brings up Jesus Christ a lot. And that being religious, being faithful is a beautiful thing. And I think it grounds you, and it removes any fear of being manipulated in any way. But when Whitlock does it, or when assholes like Charlie Kirk or Matt Walsh or Glenn Beck, when those guys do it, I just feel that they're using Jesus as a crutch. If you don't like Israel, you don't like Jesus. If you don't support this, you don't like Jesus. How could you be against Israel? Jesus walked on water there. You have to love. And it says in the Bible we should worship the Jews. That's what Charlie Kirk said. Look that up. He said in the Bible he read that Christians are supposed to worship Jews. Look that up. That's what kind of madman, that's what kind of cuck he is. And if you are black and conservative, you're going to find your way on TV. You're going to find your way as a pundit on Fox News or whatever, Newsmax. You're going to get a radio show. It's almost like being a left-handed hitting catcher. You'll make it to the major leagues overnight. If you're a black conservative, you'll be on TV. You're going to find your way on TV. And that, my friends, is black privilege. Because we don't need white conservatives. We got plenty of them. They're a dime a dozen. But if you're and you're starting to, nobody cares about white women conservatives. They're annoying as fuck. But if you're black, Hispanic, fucking Indian, with this Vivek and the Dinesh D'Souza or whatever his name is, man, that you're gonna make a lot of money, because it shows that the party is evolving when it's not. The values of the Republican conservative party are not evolving. We're seeing it now. Trump is devolving in front of us. He's falling behind, and he's becoming part of the swamp. He's built his own swamp with his dealings as of the last 3-4 months. So take that as for what it's worth, but I wasn't really happy with the way Whitlock brought that about. There's no reason to talk about Fuentes at this juncture of him having any political aspirations. But as we move on from Whitlock, we're going to go and we're going to look at Nick Fuentes, who's been making the rounds now. He's been making the rounds a lot. And today, I think, I really didn't agree with this, but he was on Andrew Tate's podcast with a few other guys. You see this moron over here getting a haircut while he's on the show. I mean, what are you trying to prove here? That you're just too cool for school, that you can't get a haircut on your own time? That people got to watch you like, in a smock? What a fucking moron. But Nick is on here with Andrew Tate, a guy that I am not 100% in love with. I think some of the things he says is okay. I think some of the things he represents are not. I don't like the whole trafficking thing and the whole pimping thing. But be that as it may, he does seem to be open to a lot of what Fuentes is going through right now. And Nick was on there today. And we'll play this clip. It's about 3.5 minutes. Let's see what they have to say about the current state of affairs.
Jews feel threatened because they're not a majority, which means they're using the organizational skills of the white man to constantly subvert and retain power. So the question is, aren't Jews doing what white people should be doing? But because there's so little of them, they feel enough threat to get it done?
100%. 100%. I mean, that's what defines them, is that they are up until recently, they were a diaspora people, meaning they had no land, they had no territory. And even before that, they were subjugated and enslaved. So they have a strong group identity. And they're histrionic. Like if you make a Jew joke and you don't have rapport, they'll say it's another Holocaust. If you say any Jew joke you could think of, ashtray, this, then that, they'll say, this is anti-Semitism, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. They have like this reflexive, histrionic fear of anti-Semitism because of the history of persecution, expulsion, all those things. Now, we could look at the reasons for that, but that's just what defines them. And so, as a result, like, for example, Israel, they go and bomb everybody and they say, well, we were out there defending ourselves. That'd be like if I went to my neighbor and shot everyone in the house and said, hey, man, self-defense. I mean, I was in the living room hanging out. You came downstairs. I had to kill.
Nick,
that's what they do.
Sneeko was telling me that there's Muslims that live in Israel.
That's true.
And Christians.
You're right about Jerusalem used to be a really traditionally mixed area. Al-Aqsa Mosque is in Israel as well.
Okay, but the point being is they take that to this wild extreme where they say, in order to defend ourselves, we need our own country. In order for us to have our own country, we need to be terrorists like the early Zionists. In order for us to defend our country, we have to invade our neighbors. We have to machinate and do lobbying in the United States and all of that. Like in the 73 war, Israel was almost defeated by the Arabs, and the prime minister of Israel said, if America doesn't send us this giant airlift of weapons, we'll just nuke everybody. And it's like, but they're taking their survival to this logical conclusion and extreme. And it's like Andrew said, it's Darwinism. If white people had that same mindset, we would be seeking to empower ourselves. But we don't have that same fear because white people are comfortable. We're altruistic. We're in the majority. A lot of white people aren't even conscious of race because they don't need to be, because they grew up in a white neighborhood. And so they go out into the world. It's like Andrew said too about courts. They don't know how it is in other places because to them, race, they're comfortable with it being a construct because it's not an imminent reality for them. For Jews, they grew up their whole lives knowing they're different from everybody. They celebrate Hanukkah, not Christmas. They get told stories, all their holidays about them being persecuted and them being attacked by the Romans or the Persians or the Babylonians. And so they have this like survival instinct, which leads them to amass power and dominate. And yeah, like white people should do the same thing. I 100% agree. Almost don't even hold it against them. But they need to recognize that, there are white countries and white people should be able to thrive, and we should be partners, not pawns or puppets. And that's where Jews have what you call chutzpah. They come into the country and they act like it's their home and they tell people what to do and so on. And, that's not respectful. That's not harmonious. It stems from their religion. And their religion, it says that they're people and we're animals. It says that they have souls and we don't. It's true.
But
listen, personally, I don't look at you guys as animals. I don't.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't see you as an animal. I see you as a human being.
All right, so there you got two morons over Fuentes there. I can't even. I hate to sound like this, but I didn't even see the black guy in the top right corner there until he started opening his mouth. I know that sounds terrible, but it's the truth. And then, of course, the Tate brothers are in the bottom corner there. And listen, what did Nick say that's not true? He didn't say anything there that isn't true. Their holidays are based on horror. Just imagine that. I mean, I get that if you're a Catholic or Christian, Good Friday, Easter, Good Friday, which would say is based on the day Jesus died, and the resurrection happened on Easter Sunday. But, God damn, some of these Jewish holidays, if you look into them, they're based on like slaughters and persecution. And no wonder why these people are always pissed off and defensive and angry and obnoxious. And yeah, they've gone into countries like France and Italy and Germany and Poland and demanded synagogues be built. And you know what? You know whose fault it is? These white men, the ancient white men. It's their fault. Hey, you're not in a Jewish country. There's no Jews here. We're not building a synagogue. Same thing with the Muslims. This is not a Muslim country. There's no temples for you either. Mosques. But now, as Fuentes said, white people really, in a strange way, we don't have much of an identity. I'll tell you, as an Italian American, the last person I would ask for help if I ever needed it with connections or networking or a job is another Italian American, because they won't. They'll try to hurt you rather than help you. The difference with the Jews is that they stick together. They will never allow anyone to come between them and another Jewish person, ever. And that's why if you look at the media, you look at the banking systems, you look at politics, and you look around, you say, well, how did all these Jews get in these top positions? They elevate themselves. There may never be, maybe in our lifetime, may never be a Jewish president, but there'll be a guy close enough in that White House to have influence. There'll be 3 or 4. They have nepotism. They invented nepotism because they bring their brothers up, their cousins up, their second, third, fourth, fifth cousins. They're all related. And they have a stranglehold on 3 very important vices in society. And they will never give it up unless it's taken away from them. And I don't know how we take it away from them. It just seems like they're like ticks. They just put their head in your skin and they just won't let it out. You have to pull them out. But what Fuentes said is true, which leads up to can the truth be dangerous? Can he get hurt by this? Because so far in some of the research I've done about him, he hasn't said anything that's really out of the ordinary. I mean, yeah, he says some crazy words. But is he wrong about Tucker Carlson? No. Is he wrong about Milo? No. Is he wrong about that Teal guy? No. Is he wrong about Candace Owens and Jason Whitlock and Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring? No. He's not wrong about any of those guys. He's hit them hard. And let me tell you, a lot of those guys are running for cover. A lot of them. Tucker Carlson, I haven't heard from him in a while. I mean, he had a nun on talking about the atrocities that the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. A nun. If you can't believe a nun, you can't believe anybody. But the truth is always a very, very powerful tool. And when you have the truth, you don't have to worry about inconsistencies, or you don't have to worry about remembering stuff, because the truth it's there. It's reality. As Mark Twain said, only liars have to worry about their memories, because you have to remember what you said. You have to remember the lie you said exactly the way you said it. So can the truth be dangerous? Yes. Because there are a lot of people who are making money, who get their livelihoods. They put food on the table for supporting certain people and pushing a certain agenda. But eventually that gets found out. And then when that gets found out, your credibility gets found out. And then you can't recover. And then nobody wants to listen to you. And if nobody listens to you, if nobody tunes in, if nobody clicks on your podcast, nobody turns on your radio station, nobody turns on your television station, you have no value whatsoever. Because in media, it's all about clicks. That's it. If you don't get those clicks, it's over. And this is the reason why Fuentes is getting the clicks. And this is the reason why he's dangerous. Because people believe what he says, and he's not. At this moment in time, I have to say, I haven't found any dishonesty in him at all. I can't find any. If you have, put it in the comments, and I'll look at it. But that leads up to our man memo. And again, we haven't done a man memo in a minute. But today's man memo is: the more honest a man, the less he fears. Fear is one of the most common and powerful emotions that can disturb our peace of mind. And this can prevent us from living life fully. Fear can make us anxious, insecure. It can force us into making mistakes that can ruin our lives. Irrational fear can also make us lie and cheat and hide from ourselves and others. But fear is not a natural or inevitable condition. Fear is often the result of false judgment and unrealistic expectations. Fear is usually the result of attachment to things not in our control. Fear is the consequence of our dishonesty, because when we are dishonest, we create a gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. When we worry about being exposed, when we worry about being rejected, and even when we're dishonest, we worry about being punished. You could be punished for telling the truth, but eventually gets found out. The Stoics teach us that the antidote of fear is honesty. When we are honest, we face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. When we are honest, we accept our limitations and not our excuses. When we are honest, we are free. We are free from burdens of deception, and we gain the confidence of integrity. And I'm going to read you a quote from Seneca. Seneca once wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man. But he who knows that this was the condition laid down for him at the moment of his conception will live on those terms. At the same time, he will guarantee with a similar strength of mind that no events will be taken by surprise. For by foreseeing anything that can happen as though it will happen, he will soften the onslaught of all his troubles, which present no surprises to those who are ready and waiting for them, but fall heavily on those who are careless in their expectations." And that's the memo. All right, and that's also my 2 cents. It was good to do a man memo today. I haven't written one in a while. All right, well, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole Jason Whitlock chiming in thing. I think he's going to get some shrapnel too. Nick is on the warpath, and he's hitting everybody left and right. But thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Be careful out there, my friends. As you can tell, people use Jesus' name, but it could also be Satan. Be a man and have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. We'll see you later.